Welcome to Instagram vs. Reality episode 6. If you're new to the channel, this is where we go through how photos are edited before being put up on Instagram and why you shouldn't believe everything you see. I recommend for this video especially that you watch till the end because I talk about the surgery and work TONI MAHFUD has gotten done, how you edit eye colors in Photoshop, and the behind the scenes of influencer photography. As always, these videos are meant to be informative and are not meant to target or harm anyone's brand. Alright, first off, let's start off with some easy ones. This lady here, she posts pictures of her paintings on Instagram, but her color palette never changes. I'm gonna guess that she took all of these photos on the same day. One way to do it is to put on a green screen filter on her portrait. In Photoshop, you can easily tell the computer to replace all bright green pixels with the image of your choice, like this. But that's not what she did. You can see in the bottom corner the other paintings she has from her previous posts. So it's likely she bought a few of the paintings from another artist and is posing in front of them to make you think that she painted them. Also, I've never seen someone doll up and wear their best clothes before painting. That's pretty brave. I want to play devil's advocate and say that maybe she did paint them because the colors on her palette match with the ones of the painting. But the fact that the pictures are a year apart means that the paint would have been dried and there's no way the palettes should match exactly how they are. Moving on, I found this photo so funny when I first saw it. She's gone out and photoshopped a Starbucks logo onto her cup. Now, why Starbucks? Probably going for the pumpkin spice aesthetic, but this type of editing is actually super easy to do. If you use the warp and wrap tool in Photoshop, you can basically wrap the logo around the cup, which she hasn't done here. Her edit looks like the logo is floating in the air because the shadow on the right of the cup isn't hitting the logo the same way, so our eyes think that it's floating. Here's a photo mock-up done with mugs showing you how to wrap the image around any curved surface. Here's another example of poor image wrapping. Even if the Lamborghini logo was wrapped on properly, I doubt anyone would pass that interior off as legit. Now, I've got to ask you all something. How often do you pay attention to the clouds? A lot of the people I work with, be it photographers, influencers, and photo retouchers, all edit their skies. Getting perfect weather conditions is very difficult, because if you're living in Sydney, Australia, like I am, then clear skies means sweltering hot and humid conditions. If you're photographing a model outside, they're going to melt very quickly. Overcast skies means comfortable temperatures but dull photos that need lots of editing. My point being, editing the skies is legitimate and done frequently. Problem is, this influencer keeps using the same clouds. There's no shortage of generic cloud patterns or even blending clouds from another day in, so why be lazy and use the same? Because she, or her editor, has already made a clipping mask of this one set of clouds and doesn't want to make more for other clouds. Making a mask involves painstakingly selecting the outline of your image foreground, which takes a lot of time. It's easy to get a cropped out cloud you made once and then just put that in every time, roughly blending the foreground in with a wide brush instead of individually defining it with the pen tool. If you look closely, you can see exactly what I mean with the blurriness of the far background. I know the image is low res, but the resolution very sharply drops off at this specific point because she masked the two images over each other very quickly and very poorly. Here's what I mean with one of my own photos from the beach. I can change the clouds really easily and blur the far background. The hills make it seem more seamless and natural. I don't fault her for editing the photo. I fault her for being lazy with the edit though. It's like the quote, only break one rule at a time. If you're going to retouch your photos, you don't get to do a sloppy job on top of that. So James Charles is back at it again. I remember when this photo was posted a while ago now, everyone was calling out his LV overlay. The fact that it opaquely blends into his skin is either the greatest work of makeup art I've ever seen or a 20-second job in Photoshop. What you probably didn't notice were the bending walls. By now you've seen the liquify tool misused by so many people, and honestly I'd never guess that James Charles wouldn't have enough money to hire a pro to do it for him. If I ever see a comment from a James Charles sister about him not editing his photos, I'm sending you this. You can edit your face all you like, but you can't edit your reflection. Editing reflections are one of the most difficult things to do in Photoshop, especially on a busy picture like this with lights, frames and poles. That's why modeling photography is always done in front of a plain background with soft diffused lighting, so the editing is far easier. Alright, so this is a pretty simple case of copy paste. I mean, any man who can bicep curl, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 10 plates? That's 100 kilos more than the world record, in jeans mind you, earns my respect. Ever wondered what goes on in the behind the scenes of our favorite influencers' shots? I absolutely love this photo because it's taken in Ha Long Bay, Vietnam, and I've actually seen this for myself. Unfortunately, taking the same photos in the same pose as your favorite influencer isn't going to help you stand out from the sea of others doing the same thing. To me, this picture perfectly represents our obsession with Instagram fame perfectly. Did I say perfectly twice? Here's another one at Coachella. If you watched the video this far, then I think you're ready for some difficult news. Let's talk about TONI MAHFUD. In the modeling industry, he is a powerhouse of Instagram fame, which is what brands look for nowadays rather than physical aesthetics. In the industry, it's quite well known that he's had a fair bit of work done on him. The most obvious is a rhinoplasty, but majority of ethnic models have it done at some point or another. You can't expect to meet modeling's Slavic beauty standards with a bulbous tip nose, commonly seen in Arab phenotypes. That's why rhinoplasty is one of the most common surgical procedures worldwide. Some sources say that he's also had a double jaw surgery, but if you look in the bottom right picture, he's also had the facial harmony to not need any of that, and so I disagree with them. Most strikingly, he wears contacts to color his eyes. Here's the thing about contacts. They make your eyes opaque. You can tell fake blue eyes from the real ones by how opaque they are. That's because the contacts are placed over very dark brown eyes, whereas with naturally blue eyes, that dark brown layer doesn't exist underneath, making them translucent. Here's an example of a girl who for years now has been telling people on Instagram that she has heterochromia. Her father posted her childhood photos on the right, stating that's simply not true. If you look at her blue eye, you can notice how opaque and deep blue it is. Compare that to TONI MAHFUD's eyes, which are translucent. Now, does that mean that TONI MAHFUD has naturally blue eyes? If the picture on the bottom didn't exist, I would say, yeah, he does. But here's a picture of him with his brother, where his eyes are a completely different color altogether. It could be the light, but they're definitely not the deep blue of these photos. One way to edit the opaqueness of contacts is to edit the curves adjustment layer. Here, by brightening the eye highlights, we can fake the translucency of real blue or whatever color eyes he has. This is very common in modeling to make the features pop, and since TONI MAHFUD is a renowned model, it's more than likely he has a very good retoucher to do this for him. Guys edit their photos just as much as girls, especially male models whose careers depend on it. Similarly, young men struggle with trying to achieve these standards themselves. Trying to have Slavic features on an ethnically Syrian male like Tony requires surgery, editing, and a team of retouchers to pull off. It's especially damaging as we slowly normalize it with every Instagram post. For me, many years ago, seeing TONI MAHFUD's before and after photos really helped me understand what's possible and what isn't. So, don't take this series as a way of bringing guys and girls down, because for me, I personally understand how relieving it is to see for myself Instagram versus reality.